Hey, this is Dr. Kelly Cagle, and for season 3, we're doing things a little differently because we know that a healthy and happy dad and mom starts with a healthy and happy husband and wife. So I decided to bring along my husband, Josh, as co-host so we could share some real life stuff of the ways that we learn how to fight to make our marriage thrive. You are listening to season 3 of the Parenting IQ podcast, Learning to Fight. Hey, lifelong learners, we're so excited that as we are getting close to ending season 3, where we've been chatting about learning to fight, we've got one more, well, really two more things, but today we wanted to talk about something that I have talked about before whenever I was just by myself talking about different parenting topics. And this was parenting in a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of a popular topic, a popular conversation that people are like, yeah, I need to figure out how to do this because I find myself in that scenario. But here's what we're going to talk about today: fighting in a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Because that happens.
Yeah.
It happens. And so we've got some things that we want to unpack with you. I do want to say that next week is the finale where we are going to be discussing our very last topic for season 3 with this lineup of fighting within the marriage. But then we're going to take a break for Christmas because I know that Christmas is so crazy and so busy. You've got lots of things that you need to take care of. And so do we. We are also parents. And we want to say that it's been a joy and a pleasure writing this season along with you. Season 4 is already gearing up. I've already been conducting a few things. I don't want to unpack anything yet, but just to get you excited for what's going to come in January. Okay, now, babe, let's unpack fighting in a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some things we want to talk about because we've been there.
Yeah. Well, I think all of us have probably been there, and whenever we think about fighting, obviously we have found ourselves a lot in that, and I say a lot, especially when we were first getting married
Yeah.
and first being around the family atmospheres. Sometimes that
Mhm.
can take place, or just when you're in crowds. You
Mhm.
tend to number one, you're together, and then when you're apart with friends, you might have acted this way, and then when you're there
Mhm.
with your friends again, you're kind of almost role playing, if you
Yeah.
will, and sometimes that can invade some space, some value.
Yeah. So we want to talk about a game plan. And
Hmm.
really that's what this boils down to. When we were talking about how we have kind of strategized ourselves to be successful in public environments with our friends, we came up with a pre-game, during the game, and then a post-game game plan
Right.
of really being with friends,
Yeah.
being in a social environment, whether it's with friends or with family, as you said. These moments happen socially. So the pregame is pick your battles ahead of time.
Right.
We've talked about this one a lot, and it's just a strategy for success in so many areas of life. And one of the things is you can discuss the scenarios that you think may come up ahead of time.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's very important to do so, especially if you know that there had been conflict in the past,
Mhm.
or there's someone there that maybe always rubs you the wrong way, but or maybe you're just not exactly sure even what the crowd is,
Mhm.
what is going to be going on. Like if I'm hanging out with people that I don't know that are your friends, your
Mhm.
environment, things like that. You can quickly review and get like a little download
Yeah.
of, hey, this is what's going on.
This is this person,
Correct.
this one's really talkative, this one is always late, this one's kid's really loud, and it's not gossip, that's just picking your battles ahead of time
Hmm.
so you can emotionally, mentally prepare yourselves for success.
Well, how many times have we not done that? And then you end up getting so frustrated, and, you're giving each other the eye,
Oh
or
man.
you're biting your lip, or you're just turning beet red.
You do this one like whistle that you think is so like undercover, and
It
I'm like the
is.
entire room just heard you.
Oh, man. Yeah, I do that
Yeah.
sometimes, and it's my way of just like trying to get some attention, but I didn't realize that I get everybody's
You get
attention. You
everybody's
called me
attention.
out on it one time, and
I
I
was like,
started noticing.
everybody looks. You're
Man,
like,
yeah,
and the whole room turns, and you
uh-huh.
think you're just doing it like a dog whistle
No,
thing.
well, I had to change. I'm having to change my strategy, babe. Getting your attention, you know. But yeah, we all have been in situations where we're in the heart of something, we're frustrated, right?
Mhm.
And you know, there could have been, if you rehash or maybe look at it, there could have been some things that maybe just in having a discussion
Yeah,
about how are we
for
going
sure.
into this time, like we're getting close to Christmas. I know
Mhm.
we chatted a little bit about Thanksgiving when we're with friends and family because it's such a good, wonderful time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there can always be some little stickler things that can maybe drive people nuts that
Mhm.
each other does. And I think what we've got to make sure that we're doing is how are we going to step in or how are we going to get past that? Because at the end of the day, the best value we have is that quality time with the
Yeah,
family.
for sure, for sure. And when we were first married, there were things that my family did that drove some of my family members did that drove you bananas. There were things that your family members did that drove me bananas. And then we kind of got together and we're like, you know what? At the end of the day, you come home to me, not them. And that was kind of an eye opener for us as young, I was 19, you were 21 when we first got married, and we were fighting over everything because we don't know how to pick our battles yet.
Hmm.
Everything is a battle worth fighting. And we were like, yeah, it's very true. We just see them however many times a year, which hopefully is often because, as you mentioned, family is just so precious, quality time. But when push comes to shove, you come home to one person only, and the extended family is just a bonus that
Hmm.
you can socialize with for, you know.
Well, and in the pre-planning stage, like what we're talking about, the pregame,
Mhm.
of getting into a crowd, we all always could be using advice or strategies to help manage ourselves as well as how we manage situations with people.
Mhm.
Because life is all about people. At the end of the day, it's people.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether it's in our own home, outside the home, at work, whatever you're doing, you're always around people.
Mhm.
And, so we have to learn how to navigate that.
Mhm.
And whenever we can obviously pre-plan to go in this together, we're not going to be divided.
Yeah.
So and it's okay. I think sometimes that there's a lot of us out there that it's okay to have these struggles, to not want to go maybe in that environment.
Mhm.
But there are things that we can do to make progress.
Mhm. And sometimes it's as minor as the dinner being planned earlier. Then instead, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, hey, can we push it to 6 o'clock instead of an 8 o'clock start time? Because I get grouchy. That's literally that pregame situation that you can voice certain minor things that can really impact the big picture. I think another big one when it comes to pregame and picking your battles, we have talked about this one before, but it's worth bringing up again because it's one of those core things that you and I learned that prevents a lot of the aftermath is the not correcting each other's parenting in front of the kids. So even in social environments, when kids are misbehaving and one of us is going and addressing the behavior, the other person, for example, let's say that you went in and you're saying something, it's not my place to go and say, hey, we can do this at home, like don't talk to them like that. No, that is not something that, just because it's divisive, it sends mixed messages to the kids. It You know what I mean? So
Absolutely. Well, and I think when we are a couple, obviously we are not here to try to outparent the other. We're here
mhm,
to be the parents. It takes both of us. Our kids need both mom and dad as that influence. Obviously, single family homes is a different strategy. We would always encourage you as you parent to be consistent,
yeah.
right? And obviously, there's a lot of help out there that can help you reach some goals if you're struggling maybe with a child, or how to parent through certain situations of discipline. But inside the husband and wife setting, I think what we've got to make sure that we're doing is supporting one another. We
Mhm.
might not always agree. You
Mhm.
might not agree exactly how I parent, or me
Mhm.
with yours,
Right.
but what we're not trying to do is to belittle each other in the middle of, like you said, a crowded environment, or just in general. We're
Yeah.
not here to compare that, hey, I'm better at disciplining than you,
Yeah, for
or
sure.
whatever it might be,
It's not a
right?
competition
It's
because we're a
about
team.
correcting the character that we saw needed to be corrected in the child,
Mhm.
right?
And even with not even talking about just correcting, just mentioned about there's a role that you play, a role that I play, but we're a team regardless. It's not one is better, whatever. But I will say that you do play a different role. For example, we were recently on vacation, and I have brought this up this past summer whenever you and I went on just a couple's trip. I told you that I said, I love you. I actually posted something on social media and I said, I love Josh, but I really love Vacation Josh. And a lot of people got it because they know that about you. Then we went on vacation as a family recently, and Levi, our oldest, pointed out, man, I love Vacation Dad. And I was like, I told you that even the role that you play even on vacation, sometimes shifts, and the kids pick up on that.
Sure.
You didn't say anything, it was just like he, as a 12-year-old, picked up on it.
Yeah. No, it's pretty powerful. The what I'm learning as a dad and stuff is just how smart kids are, and intuitive.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's things that we could pick them all apart on and things like that, and they probably could us if we let them, right? But thinking about the pregame though with kiddos and stuff, I think about it's almost knowing if you're going to go into Target or go into the mall or something like that. What helps is even in those settings, as a parent to a child. Hey guys, this is what we're going to go into
Yeah.
Target
Yep.
for. This is the time we're going to try to be here. We're not going to get to hit the toy section this time,
Mhm.
because we just need to stick with the groceries, or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
What are you setting? You're
Mhm.
setting an atmosphere, or an environment in a crowd, in
Yeah.
a crowded
Yeah.
area, of where we're going to go. So when I'm on aisle 7, you're not going to be crying to me that you want to go to aisle 27 to see all these
Mhm.
toys and hear about it the whole time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And even when the kids were little, I just remembered with the pregame situation with picking your battles, we would even I would not run errands when it was nap time. You're just setting yourself up for failure because the
Yeah.
kids are going to be tired, or during lunchtime, kids are going to be hungry. So there's a lot of pregame that can take place when it comes to setting yourself up for success. So fights don't even break out. But then what can we do during this game? Whenever we are out and about, um, one of the biggest things that you and I settled on is that your values have to be consistent inside and outside of the home.
Right. No, I think it's very powerful. Again, kids are intuitive. If we're sending mixed messages to them in or out the home, at the end of the day, to them, they're just getting an instruction.
Mhm.
And if it's violating or not the same and not consistent, then that kid could be left with borders, boundaries,
Yeah.
maybe being gray. So when we are in crowds,
Mhm.
and we have a stern voice, you know,
Mhm.
sons, get
Yep.
over here. I mean, it is a this is what's going to happen mentality. You guys need. We're going to tell you one time, because we focus on trying to tell our kids one time in the home.
Right. Right.
And so now that doesn't always work.
Sure.
Sometimes it does feel like in the home you're two, three, four times, but then what happens? Your voice gets a little strong again, right? But
Mhm.
when we're outside the home, and we've been preaching this one time, this is what
Mhm.
we're going to talk about. I'm going to tell you one time. Then I think that they're quicker to respond,
Mhm.
right? Because they know that we mean business.
Yeah. Well, and it's also inside your home is the safe environment to practice. And I think it's also the safe environment to practice how to be husband and wife
Yeah.
because if we only went out, you know what I mean? Like if you and I didn't talk much inside the home, whatever, then whenever we went out and we were expected to talk in a social environment, we wouldn't have a relationship. You know,
Mhm.
it would be so awkward because it would be all about the other people or whatever. Where this is where you and I call each other babe. And then when we are out and about, we still call each other babe because that's what we've always done. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so that consistency, the values of, hey, and this is just our preference. We don't cuss inside the home. We don't cuss outside the home. You know,
Mhm.
there are things that we do inside the home that we also do outside the home.
Mhm.
And that's just bottom line for the kids as well.
Yeah. Well, and in the game, and when we're in the crowd, when we're with a lot of people, and like you said, that we know each other, and we're gonna try to protect each other in the home. We're gonna try to protect each other in the crowd. You know, we're there for each other. You know, there's sometimes that I don't want to be around the people that the crowd might be about. You know,
Mhm.
or you're that way, but yet when we are together, you know, we have that peace. We have that, hey, you know, that
Mhm.
comfort, if you
Yeah.
will. And so I think that as we learn how to fight through these crowded situations, we always got to understand that number one, you know, people are valuable.
Mhm.
Okay, so sometimes they can be a lot. You know, you got people can be demanding, but if we can see people as valuable, then I think that's a step in the right direction.
Mhm.
Okay, and then whenever we step in, knowing that, hey, we're going to basically have each other's back,
Mhm.
I think that that's going to help that night or that
Mhm.
time.
And also with the topics that you talk about. An example that our son brought up, he said, "When I go to somebody's house, they're always talking about how much money they spent on this, how much money this costs, how much money this was, you know, and maybe it's this balance of, well, I don't know. Is that what they always talk about? Is that what the kids always hear them talk about? Is that something that's super prioritized? Which again, not to judge, but what you talk about inside the home, the kids always talk about outside the home. And you also end up talking about outside the home. Pride, for example. Do you get in a social environment and feel like you need to talk yourself up that you're doing something with your life? Or are you just like, hey, this is me and I'm this person here, I'm this person here. If I go to church, I'm the same person. If I go to Chili's, I'm the same person. You know, if I go to Christmas dinner, I'm just the same person. And that consistency, the values, the root of who you are, like your inner, your heartbeat is the same.
Right. Yeah. So knowing your values, I think
Mhm.
would be a step in the right direction, you know, as a marriage.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
good.
you know, maybe we need to work on defining
Mhm.
those values when we get outside the home. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So this is how we're going to operate.
Mhm.
And so whether it's in time, you know, like maybe one of you has a value that y'all don't like to be out too late, you
Mhm.
know, but the other one could party all night long.
Mhm.
You might need to set that, you know, expectation up
Yeah.
front so that once that threshold hits and
Mhm.
that one person's ready to go home and the other person
Yeah.
night's just getting started, you at least have already had that value set
Yeah.
or established.
Yeah. For sure. It's really good. Okay, now then the aftermath, the after game, post game.
Debriefing.
Yep, debriefing.
Mhm.
Because we learned this and a lot of our fights could have been avoided because we didn't do step 1. We didn't do the pregame conversation because we were learning, you know, and we're still learning. We're
Yeah.
still trying to
No,
figure
it
things
still
out.
happens.
Right. But then whenever things do come up, and you said something, you did something, I said something, I did something, or I didn't do something, or whatever, you name it. When something does come up, whenever you are out in public, it doesn't mean it goes back to the very first episode that we did about learning to fight, about sometimes things can wait to be solved, but they still have to be solved.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that it's not good practice to try to sweep things under the rug,
Mm-mm.
but I would say that I think there's so many times where you've made it through the night, you thought and you're so frustrated but you try to keep your face, you try to keep this game face on, of positivity and stuff, and then you get in the car and
Yep. Yep.
all
Yep.
crap just comes loose, and you're fighting all the way home or whatever it might be. I mean, I don't know how many times that's happened to
Yep.
us,
For sure.
and I'm sure many other couples, and you can almost see when you're in a crowd and you see a couple that is experiencing some friction,
You're like,
and they
uh-oh.
and they didn't explode in the crowd. You know that whenever they're
That
going
door
home,
clicks. Bruh.
and we've all been there.
Yeah.
And but still, even in that, it's hey, if we would have set some expectations up front, could this have been avoided?
Mm-hmm.
We're all gonna fight, right?
Yeah.
But there's healthy ways to fight, as we've been discussing
Mm-hmm.
throughout this series, and then there's unhealthy ways. And that's what we want to encourage today, is to try to let's try to focus on, when we're approaching the Christmas season, we all have many years we can look back on disappointments or frustrations or moments where we might have had some fighting taking place in the crowded situations. And so maybe identifying that stuff now,
Yep.
so that our goal is to have successful opportunities
Mm-hmm.
with our friends and family.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's not about um even if you didn't debrief, let's say that you went out a month ago and something happened a month ago, and now you're going out with the same people, or it was a Thanksgiving that something happened, and now here comes Thanksgiving dinner, or I'm sorry, Christmas dinner, and you didn't debrief, and now you're like just losing sleep over the same scenario. You can debrief later still.
Sure.
You can still say, hey, remember whenever so and so said or did whatever, and I didn't like how you said that, and just unpack that. That
Sure.
unpacking can be a little later, because again, going back to that first episode, sometimes I am a slow
Right.
processor
Yep.
with my thoughts, with my emotions. I don't say things right off the bat, but doesn't mean that things aren't cooking,
Sure.
where you'll just say it. And sometimes you're like, I don't even know what I said, you
Well,
know?
I think sometimes debriefing can get heated,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're right. It could even be where you have to pause, and
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're headed home again late nights. A lot of times when we get into fights, at least for us, it can be analyzed on tiredness.
Yeah.
Even hangry or
Yeah.
something like that. There can be some things that go
Oh,
on in
we've
those
talked about a
moments.
lot of hangry
Y
fights over
yeah,
food.
yeah, don't mess with me if I'm hungry and stuff, but I do think that whenever the whole purpose of debriefing is to know where each other kinda stood,
Mhm.
and we gotta respect each other. We might not like what we
Yeah.
hear, because you might be saying that I did something in that in the crowd that you didn't like, and I'm offended,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, because I'm just like, well, what,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And also being gracious. If you do bring something up that has been a while since it happened, the other person could legit not even remember, you know? And so people are different. We fight differently. We've been talking about this all semester with a whole bunch of different topics.
Mhm.
And so even in the we've talked about introverts and extroverts too. There are even that social anxiety that can arise just from personality differences. There are so many layers
Yeah,
to being in public and still being a couple in public. Because if I have a girls' night, I can say whatever I want and you have no idea. If you have a guys' night, you can say whatever you want and I have no idea. Not that again, that's where your values stand,
sure.
and you're still the
Absolutely.
same person, whether here, whoever hears. But sometimes it could be that something I said would have offended you if we were together, or whatever, vice versa. And so
I
just
can't believe that.
oh, my girlfriends would tell, oh, no, they probably don't. That's
Alright, we're having them on the podcast. We're gonna do an interview.
yeah.
I'm quizzing them
No, 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 you're
and
not.
stuff,
No,
so
you're not. But so anyway, so going down to the pregame the during the game, and then the post game is really important. And I was thinking of a verse in my head, and you were like, "Hey, I think we need to wrap up the episode with this verse." And I was like, "That's the exact verse I was thinking of." So you are meant to hear this verse today, listeners, because it boils everything down to this: Ephesians 4:26-27. Don't sin by letting anger control you. So it doesn't say don't get angry. It says don't let it control you.
Mm, that's good.
Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. So the fighting, if you don't solve it, the devil's going to come in and he's going to use that little inch
Right.
and take up
And
more.
I'm going to say something real quick. Whenever it talks about the sun, go down, I really think what it means is just obviously if you're in the middle of a fight at midnight, it's not about, oh, we got to stay up to fix this. I
Mhm.
think what it really means is hey, there is a short period of time that needs to exist between when a fight was going on to the when the fight gets resolved, right? It doesn't need to be, days turn into weeks, weeks turn into
Yeah.
months, and so on and so forth. No, there is a short period of time when the sun goes down, right? We have the sun on our faces for 12 hours or so, so in that time, if you find yourselves in a big fight, go get it could be again that you're exhausted
Yeah.
like we
Yep.
can be. Sometimes it is okay to go ahead and get some rest, but then you're focused on getting back together to debrief the problem, to come to a resolution so that you can be united. Because the
Yep.
Bible also says that a house divided against itself cannot stand. So,
Mhm.
therefore, we're after unity as lifelong learners and parenting, because when we are united, we are a powerful force.
Mhm.
And the enemy, the devil, the foothold here that you're talking about, does not want families to be united, marriages to be united. So that's why it's so important for us to not take any of these topics that we go through very lightly. And not because we know everything, but because we want to partner with other marriages to see families changed. We want to see kids grow and know what a healthy mom and dad
Mhm.
needs to what they would want to look for as a mom and dad.
Mhm.
Not always, well, I'm going to be, completely different than my dad was cuz this guy was terrible or whatever as they get older. But the goal is to model healthy parents, and we do that by these values.
Mhm.
So I'd encourage you as families, even for us, our values aren't all established. You can still have certain values, and throughout life add one,
Mhm.
to your repertoire as your family dynamics change or grow. And so we always want to encourage you as listeners to know that that's what this is about. That's why we ask for your support, is because this is bigger than any one person. It's about family,
Mhm.
and that dynamic changes the world.
Yeah, for sure. So whenever you find yourself in public and you're still trying to navigate this fighting scene, we've got the three things: the pre-game, or during game, and then the post-game, which is prepare yourself for success by picking your battles ahead of time. Then you stay consistent to your values during outings, and then you also debrief afterwards. So as Josh mentioned, you keep that tight family unit, and it's the same wherever you go. You are the same family. So we love you guys. Next week, the finale. Be sure that you share about these episodes. We would love to have you follow along. Also on our YouTube page at Dr. Kelly Cagle. And we will see you guys next week.